Hi friends, Laura Kromzak here, and this is the Disney Slowdown where I'm going to help you plan your magical vacation with your special needs kids. Slow down, savor the moments, stay on budget, avoid the meltdowns, and have a good time. Last week, I talked about the benefit of taking your kids on a Disney cruise. Today, let's talk about the differences between other cruise lines and Disney. Let's get started. When we were planning our Disney cruise, the only thing I ever heard was, "Oh, the food is so amazing." So I had an expectation that my Disney Cruise Line food was going to be way up here versus the other cruise lines that I've already experienced, and that's just not the case. Cruise line food is cruise line food. You have professional chefs on each of these cruise lines that are running these kitchens and controlling the menu. Now, I will say that in the past 25 years of going on cruises, I feel like the food quality is declining across the board. And I think that's really just our dining, because in the United States, a lot of our chain restaurants are getting their food from the same food vendors. So you may go to different restaurants, but the food is the same. The desserts, especially, the breads, things like that. And sometimes I think it's just not worth the calories, right? You've got to make those decisions when you're older. You look at something and you're like, yeah, no, that's not worth the calories. I know that's not going to taste as good as I want it to taste. I love to indulge in food and I love good food. But some things that are being passed off as food just are not that fabulous. So we skip those. But across the board, I would say cruise line food is going to be more elevated. Yes, you are always going to be able to find your chicken tenders and your fries and your pizza and your burgers. You're going to find those everywhere 24/7. You're going to have desserts. I feel like the desserts are all coming from the same place too. Nobody's freshly making them anymore. This is just my opinion. I don't know for fact, but I'm guessing that the breads, they're fresh baked, but they're not making the dough from scratch anymore. The dough is coming on board, probably frozen, where they have to thaw it, let it rise, and then they bake it. It's the price that we pay for wanting to have everything right now and super fast. My husband and I just got back from a Royal Caribbean cruise that we took for our anniversary. No children. We go to the main dining for breakfast instead of going to the buffet. We don't need all the craziness of the buffet. We eat pretty much the same stuff. You can get a lot of the same things in the main dining room that you can get at the buffet, so why not sit down and have a nice, slower meal? So we sat down and I got a croissant with my meal. Now, 25 years ago, I probably thought this is the best bread ever. But now that I'm older, I opened up my croissant and I'm like, it's not laminated. Tell me you're a food snob without telling me that you're a food snob. My croissant is not laminated. Another thing that you're going to see across the board is the service. Yes, Disney service is magical. Cruise line service is cruise line service. You're going to have outstanding, you're going to have good, and you're going to have poor. I've seen some reviews that it's bad again. And again, I think we have done this to ourselves. Now, I don't know what it was like to ever be in service on a cruise ship. I can imagine that people would take a cruise and then stiff their service people, like the room steward. I remember we used to get little envelopes and they would be labeled and it would say, okay, this goes to the head waiter over the whole dining room. This goes to your waiter, your head waiter at your table. This goes to the assistant waiter at your table. This is your room steward. Then there was an assistant room steward. And then there was another envelope if there was anybody else on the ship that you continued to run into that you wanted to, give an extra tip to. Because you don't use cash on a cruise ship. You charge everything to your room. Now, several years ago, they started prepaying for those tips. So I feel like that was kind of the moment when the service might have started to decline. And of course, now post-pandemic, everything has been cut. Used to be they would come in and service your room twice a day. They would come in and they would fix it up and clean it up in the morning, and then they would turn the beds down in the evening. They would leave you the towel animal. We were on a short cruise, so we were talking to our room steward, and the turnover and the things that they had to do, there was just no time. And they did not have any assistant room stewards now. So I don't know if they've got fewer rooms or if they just don't have the assistant anymore. But there's, just like our society, we're putting more and more responsibility on top of the shoulders of fewer and fewer people. And so things are going to get cut. I would say the first cruises that I took in the early 2000s, service was just immaculate. Is it generational? Is it because we have started doing the prepaid gratuities and they know that they're going to get at least a minimum? I can't answer that. You're going to get free ice cream on every cruise line. Now, Disney, you're going to get the Dole Whip, so that's a plus in the Disney category. But you do get unlimited ice cream. 7 years ago, when I took my last Royal Caribbean cruise, I would have said that the entertainment is the reason why I would not take children on another cruise line. And actually, we did. We chose in January of 2020, we chose to take our kids on a Disney cruise because I knew that the entertainment was going to be family friendly. I think that once Disney started putting ships in the water, the other cruise lines across the board really started stepping up their game. If they were trying to attract families, now they had to compete with Disney. And that's hard to do, because Disney does kids and family so well. I would say now I think that they're competing well. I was really shocked on the cruise ship that we were on. There was an ice rink and there was an ice skating show. There was an aqua theater and there was an aqua show, like a diving show, and they had acrobats and dancers put on this whole show. It was really neat. Highly enjoyable, and I totally recommend that. The theater production was fabulous. That was Mamma Mia. So 7 years ago, you had the one theater, and there was a different show every night, and it was the same performers, bless their hearts. But some of the theatrical productions were not appropriate for children. They were Las Vegas style shows. Now we've gotten more into family friendly theatrical productions and other types of entertainment that is family friendly and that are going to be enjoyable for all ages. I would say on entertainment wise, based on what I have seen, I think the other cruise lines are absolutely competing. The stuff to do on a cruise ship, if you have seen any promotional videos from Carnival or Royal Caribbean, I think I've seen Norwegian as well, when they put those bright colors on the pool deck and they've got the slides, yeah, they're attracting your family. They want your kids to go, ooh, I want to try that. It's those bright colors everywhere. They are really putting families first. And I have heard from other vloggers that I like to pay attention to, I'll post a playlist, Tips for Travelers, Gary Bainbridge. He travels all over the place. What I like about him is he kind of looks at the whole global industry of cruising. And he has said recently even that because of the pandemic, the cruise lines were hit really hard. That was the one industry that they really couldn't figure out. Like, we'd get regulations in place, they would do a test run, there would be an outbreak, they'd have to shut down, scrub everything, start all over. It took them a long time to really get the all clear to go ahead and try to get up and running. And obviously there's a whole bunch of people on these cruise ships. I mean, you're talking 1,000, 1,200 crew members on these big ships that now don't have jobs for 2 years, and they're service based. So the cruise lines really wanted to get moving and get going, but they took a big hit. Now they are focusing on, we need to recover and we need to bring families on board. So even some of your cruise lines like Princess and Celebrity that are typically older couples, adults, no children, they're attracting families. Honestly, I did not enjoy being on the promenade after 10 p.m. when I'm like kind of winding down and we're just sitting there like, oh, let's have a little dessert or something. And you've got idiot teenagers that don't have a curfew until 1 a.m. and they're just being stupid. And it's like, isn't there another place for you to go for that? So I get it. I would not want to be on like a princess cruise expecting, adult behavior and then have a bunch of that. If you are finding this video helpful, would you please like the video, share it to some friends, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell. I'd really appreciate it. In my last video about a Disney cruise, if you did not see that, I will link that here. I talked about Disney cruise ships having adjoining rooms. Well, guess what? The ship that I was on also has adjoining rooms. Now, if you go on an older ship, you may find that still a problem. You don't have a lot of adjoining room options, but I would say some of the newer ships, if you look, you're going to see a lot more adjoining rooms. Again, that's family friendly. I don't want to pay 3 times as much for a junior suite for a family of 5 if I can get 2 interior adjoining rooms. Now, what I loved about the Allure of the Seas is they actually made it like 50% wider than their regular cruise ship, and they scooped out the middle. So we have 2 huge open air sections. Deck 6 aft was the boardwalk. So they had a carousel. That's where the rock climbing wall was at. They had 2 of them, one on each side. Then they had the aqua theater back there. They had a little, the little cafes. Johnny Rockets was there. You have to pay extra to go to Johnny Rockets, but they had like the boardwalk hot dogs and the boardwalk donuts. So it was a nice little area to kind of chill out. Fun for the kids. They had a couple of playground areas for the kids back there as well, but it was all open. So that means from deck probably 7 all the way to 14, all those normal interior rooms now were interior balconies. That was amazing. Now on deck 8, midship to forward, that was called Central Park. It was green. You had live plants and trees. It was calm. You had your specialty dining restaurants there, your higher end ones, but you also had a couple of cafes, and there was live music, like jazz musicians every evening. It was wonderful. We actually were able to get a guaranteed balcony, that's what they called it, for the same price as an interior room. Now, we didn't get an ocean view, but honestly, after taking this cruise, my husband and I, we would choose a balcony over Central Park again. 100%. It was awesome. We were there in the middle of the day, taking a nap, had the window open or the sliding glass door open. We could hear all the activity from the pool deck. We could hear the music. It was fun. I just didn't have to be in it, but I could hear it. It was nice. And then at night, being able to sit in your pajamas on your deck, on your balcony, or even in your bed, door open, and hearing live music. Oh yeah, 100%. I would totally do that again. So I would say as far as amenities on this ship, Disney's definitely got some competition. activities and things to do for the kids. I mean, Royal Caribbean is known for the flow rider. They've got the rock climbing wall. There was a basketball court. There was miniature golf, ping pong tables. So many things for the kids to do, and I think that's a plus and it's a negative because there's so much on the ship for the kids to do. They don't want to be in the kid area, where Disney kind of has the market on keeping them contained in the kid area because the kid area is so cool, like nothing else on the ship can compete. I could go either direction there. I really could. My kids would have free reign now because they're, the youngest one's 11. So by the time we take him on a cruise, they would all have free reign of the ship and they would be fine and we would never see them. On a Disney cruise, they would have areas to hang out, but it would be a little different with them being older now and having the teen areas to hang out in, as opposed to my son always wanting to be in the video game section. I don't know. I never really checked out the teen area that much. I'm sure they have video games in there too, so he would probably be happy either way. But I think I'd rather have him like on the flow rider or on the basketball court than, sitting and playing video games all day. Just my thought. Another benefit is cost. These other cruise lines are just not as expensive as the Disney cruise. So if you're looking at cost, you absolutely have to look at that. Cruise ship versus cruise ship. I would say Royal Caribbean and Carnival win over Disney from the cost. Another factor is what port is more conveniently located for you. So if you have a port of call that's close to you that has regular ships, so that's something you really have to look at. Because the Disney fleet is so small with only 6 ships and they're everywhere, you really have to kind of fit into their schedule as opposed to, like my husband, he's like, okay, I'm going to take this week off. This is an option that I have. What can we do during this week? We wouldn't necessarily be able to fit a Disney cruise in that time frame. But there's always going to be a royal ship, which we prefer. We're gold status. We're almost to platinum. So we would prefer to just stay on royal because of the loyalty rewards, right? Carnival has it. I mean, they all have the loyalty program. So I feel like if you start with one, it's nice to try others out so you have a comparison. But sometimes if you've spent a lot of time on one cruise line, then your loyalty rewards, it's kind of like that's what's pulling you back, and that's what the cruise lines want. Disney has the loyalty rewards as well. So you could go either direction. But we would choose a Royal over a Carnival and have no problems. We probably would not see our children. We'd have to force them to eat dinner with us. I will say that a lot of them have private islands now. So what they're doing is they're leasing islands from the Bahamian government, and the lease is like 99 years. And they're renovating it, and they're making these oasis beach days just for their cruise line. Royal Caribbean's is huge. Coco Cay is absolutely huge, and they have done it so well. There was a couple things about Castaway that I wasn't crazy about. Like, they had one major buffet, but there were lines. We waited in line for food, and I was not super happy about that. There was a smaller one that I'd completely forgotten about, and I should have just walked to the other one and gotten food, no problem. But it was not a good day for me at Castaway. But I love that Coco Cay had 2 big buffets, and it was like 2, they were both double-sided. So basically you had 4 buffet areas in 2 different locations, and they were huge. And then they also had snack shacks at different beach locations, so you could go get a chicken sandwich. They had funnel cakes and fried mozzarella sticks and fries. So you could get something there. You didn't have to walk very far to get a little snack. And then when you were ready for your main meal and you wanted something fresh or, vegetarian or whatever, you could go and do that and just walk to one of those two areas. So I really, really appreciated that about Coco Cay versus what we experienced on Castaway. Okay, the plus that I have for Disney is always going to be the plus for Disney. It's Disney. The characters, the theming, the kids area. If it will entertain your kid for the entire cruise and you hardly see them and you get a break and you get a vacation, awesome. I would say the adult area too. Now, the Allure had a bigger space in their bow for the adults to hang out. So there was more seating. There was actually a bistro up there. So you didn't have to fight all of the kids and the crowds at the Windjammer. You could go and get more fresh options, healthier options at the bistro in the solarium. But the spa and the thermal, it was called the thermal spa, which is kind of comparable to what we experienced on the Dream at Disney. It's like you weren't even trying, Royal Caribbean. I'm sorry, but that thermal spa, it was good, but it didn't quite hit the mark for me. Just being honest. So I would say that you really just have to factor in, 1, your budget, 2, what is your port of call that's most conveniently located, and then 3, what cruise can you take? What are your options? What's even available? I do like that Royal Caribbean has, a 3-night and a 4-night. Again, Disney with a smaller fleet isn't necessarily going to have the array of options like your other fleets that have 3 times as many ships. So that's my 2 cents. I hope it was helpful. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, could you please do that and share it with a friend? I really would appreciate your support. And you know what? Cruising is totally an option for me for a mom trip. But if you want to go on a mom trip to Disney and leave the kids at home, come say hi to me on Patreon. I'd really love to get to know you. And you'll find out other things that I'm up to as well. Have a great day, and we'll see you on my next video.